Plants vs. Zombies is without a shadow of a doubt one of the best zombie games of all time in my opinion, and it undoubtedly left a huge mark on the gaming industry, spawning sequels, spin-offs, merchandise, graphic novels, you name it. But what made this simple game so amazing and loved by just about everyone who played it? Well, sit back and I'll tell you what made this game so great and why I love it so much in my retrospective. For today's video, I will mostly be looking at the Xbox 360 version, although I will discuss the DS release as well, which I easily sunk over 100 hours into as a kid. I think the number one reason this game did so well was its creativity. Up until this point, most zombie media was undead serious, and mainly catered to mature audiences, with R-rated movies like Zombieland and Dawn of the Dead, or games like Resident Evil or House of the Dead, which hold M17 plus ratings. Very few people up to this point had even considered marketing zombies to a wider family-friendly audience, and the harvest was ripe for the picking, and PopCap took flesh-eating, half-rotten walking corpses and turned them into something suitable for an E10 audience. This allowed the game to have a lot of people to market to, not just confined to angsty teens splattering blood everywhere on Hunter the Reckoning, or hardcore horror fans who your parents told you to stay away from when you were in elementary school, but the game beckoned everyone, far and wide, of all ages to come sink their teeth into the juicy goodness that is Plants vs. Zombies. Okay, you've got a kid-friendly game. Those are a dime a dozen, but Plants vs. Zombies was just bursting with creativity. I mean, the name alone and the idea of the game is very innovative. You have plants fighting zombies, a bizarre and funny yet attention-grabbing concept. But this game had another trick up its sleeve. It's a very simple game that isn't super easy, at least not to a newcomer, and this game has a ton of content. The controls and concept of the game are very laid back. You clicked on this video, congratulations, you know most of the controls to the game. And the concept? Well, don't let zombies reach your house. Boom, simple and straight to the point. I like it. But note I said this game isn't super easy to a newcomer. While new players will likely breeze through the first daytime chapter, things get a bit more challenging with each new chapter, and while a veteran player like myself knows all the ins and outs to the game, a newbie will be trying to learn the ropes, like what all the plants do, what all the new Zeds do, the best strategies, etc. You start off with the very simple, very basic daytime front lawn levels, where you get the most basic Zeeks, slow-moving walkers and their armored co-workers, the road cone and buckethead zombies, and you have basic plants on your end, your energy-generating sunflowers, the iconic pea shooter, cherry bombs, etc., in addition to receiving bonus sun falling from the sky. Nothing too complex, pretty chill and laid back. But day does not exist without night, and the darkness brings its own challenges. No more bonus sun falling from the sky, and zombies are no longer limited to spawning outside of your lawn. They can now pop out of graves on your lawn, and while you can remove them with grave diggers, they'll just pop back up somewhere else, even being able to spawn over a plant on the Xbox version, and the Zeds are now better prepared to assault your home. While the cannon fodder walkers and road cone zombies are still present, they're in greater numbers, and you now have shielded zombies, which are tough to kill with most plants, but are vulnerable to fume shrooms and spike weeds. You also get the fast and tough football zombie, who can be a pain to people without much experience, and the dreaded dancer zombie, who, if not dealt with quickly, will spawn in additional zombies around him, and can deal a fair amount of harm to player defenses if not properly handled. But for every action, there is a equal and opposite reaction. No more free sun falling from the sky, you're given tiny mushrooms that require zero sunshine. While yes, they don't have much range, they can pack a punch when in large numbers. Also, to help balance out the lack of free sunshine, you're presented with an alternative sun-producing plant, the sun shroom, which cost only 25 sun versus the sunflower's 50, but this price reduction does have drawbacks. Sun shrooms will only give the player 15 sunshine until they're fully grown, but get upgraded to a full 25 after a few minutes. After 10 levels of attempting to breach your defenses, the Zeds decide that your front lawn is too tough of a nut to crack, so they try a different approach, the backyard, which brings us to the pool levels, which bring a decent increase in difficulty versus the basic day and night levels. Unlike the front lawn, your backyard has a pool, and players will have to spend sun to buy lily pads to place on the water so they can properly fortify these lanes, in addition to having to spend in-game coins to buy pool cleaners instead of lawnmowers for these new H2O lanes. And even though they're cheap, the fact that players have to pay for an area to place their plants on pool sections makes these lanes harder to defend than solid ground. And while there are a couple defensive aquatic plants, like the tangle kelp, these plants really aren't good as main defenses. And of course, if there's a pool, there's gonna be pool-specific Zeds, being the scuba divers, who can only be attacked while they're above water, e.g. eating a plant or right as they jump into the pool. You also have the dolphin riders, who ride fast zombie dolphins who can jump over short plants, although thankfully they don't have a ton of health. And finally, normal Zeds, who emerge from the slimy depths of your pool for massive wave attacks. Oh, and normal Zeds now have rubber duck floaties. Also introduced for pool levels are the dreaded Zomboni and the Zombie Bobsled team, who can easily overwhelm a new player if they're caught off guard, due to the amount of damage the Zamboni can take before breaking down, although he can be one hit with spike weeds and most consumable plants if my memory serves me right. Now thankfully you won't have to deal with the bobsled team if you stop the Zomboni early on or use a jalapeno bomb, but he leaves a trail of ice behind him that the bobsled team can ride in on, although thankfully it does go away with time. But in a nutshell, Zombonis are a high priority target. And don't think the backyard assault ends in just a few hours. Oh no, the Zeds pound away all day and all night, bringing us to the challenging fog missions. Basically the pool, but it's nighttime, and half the lawn is covered in fog. But you have a couple new plants to fight it back with, being torches, which clear a little bit of fog and set certain projectiles on fire, doubling their damage, and you also have inexpensive lanterns that illuminate large areas for 25 sun, and you also have the blower, which temporarily blasts away all fog and balloon zombies. Yep, balloon zombies. The Zeds are now airborne and can be defeated with the cactus or the cattail, aka the upgraded lily pad, more on upgraded plants later. Also added to the fog levels are the devastating miner zombies, who burrow under your defenses and attack from left to right, versus the standard right to left on the lawn, but can be dealt with by using the new split pea, which can defend itself from behind, or by using consumables, of course, like cherry bombs or squash, or you can use the new magnet shroom to yank away their pickaxe, preventing them from digging. And you'll find the magnet shroom helpful for more than just miners, as they take away all metal objects from Zeds. Helmets, shields, the new explosive jack-in-the-box, you name it, although they do require a cooldown between uses, of course. Also introduced is the Pogo Zombie, who can jump over infinite plants versus the pole vaulting zombie single hop, but he can be stopped by tall nuts and magnet shrooms thankfully. And most notably, the rare Yeti Zombie. He can appear on second playthroughs of the Fog level, although he seems to be rare on the DS version. I only saw him once in over 100 hours of playtime versus seeing him twice in maybe 20 to 30 hours on Xbox, and he drops diamonds upon his death. Anyways, after failing to besiege your backyard, the Zeds have one final trick up their undead sleeves: assaulting your roof. These are undoubtedly the hardest levels in the game, as it introduces the toughest and most annoying Zeds. You have to pay for every single additional space to plant your plants, by buying flower pots that is, and of course your roof is tilted, severely limiting the effectiveness of most plants and causing the player to rely heavily on the new catapult plants, which overall aren't as good as a lot of non-roof plants in my opinion. I mean, sure, the melon pult is a great plant that deals heavy damage to multiple Zeeks, but man, is it expensive, holding a 300 sun price tag, and you feel that price whenever one of them gets eaten. As far as other catapult plants, you get the cabbage and the kernel pult, with the cabbage being an approximate equal to the pea shooter. The kernel pult lobs weak kernels of corn and sometimes tosses in heavy-hitting slabs of butter, which paralyzes zombies for a few seconds. I think the last new plants worth really getting into are the coffee beans, which allow you to use nighttime plants on day levels, and the umbrella leaf, which protects your vegetation from aerial assaults and from plant nappers, which brings us to new zombie types, starting with the dreaded bungee jumpers, who attack from above to either kidnap your plants or drop in fresh zombies to munch on your plants, and you seldom have enough time to kill them, making the umbrella leaves a must-have. And the umbrella is also very useful against the new catapult zombie, who launches basketballs at your plants from a distance. So yeah, umbrellas are crucial to surviving the roof levels, especially when you add in that lawnmowers don't exist and you have to purchase roof cleaners to replace them. Adding to the list of the Zeds, the ladder zombie is added, who moves fast and has a ladder which he places on plants, allowing him and his colleagues to climb over your defenses, making a magnet shroom coffee bean collab necessary for his levels. And finally, the Gargantuar, a massive zombie capable of one-hitting almost every single plant, with the spike rock being the only exception, and Mr. Gargantuar can absorb a lot of damage before succumbing to his death, and after taking a lot of hits, he tosses a imp into your garden, who's weak but very fast, and there's an achievement on Xbox for beating your first Gargantuar, and after 9 tough levels of trying to breach your roof, Dr. Zomboss, the leader of the Zeds, comes in to deal with things himself as you face off against him while awesome music plays in the background. While I don't really struggle with him anymore, I seem to vaguely remember he defeated me at least twice on my first ever playthrough in elementary school before I finally emerged victorious, which felt absolutely amazing at the time. And following his defeat, you get to watch a awesome music video. The memories. But if you think this was all Plants vs. Zombies has to offer, you are very mistaken, as the campaign maybe makes up half of this game's content, if even half. I mentioned money in Crazy Dave's store a while back. Well, you can use money collecting from offing Zeds and use it to buy items at Crazy Dave's Twitty Dinkies, with new items becoming available the longer you play, with things like plant upgrades, a rake to kill the first Zed on a level, upgrades for your seed slot capacity, or new plants and items for your Zen Garden. Ah yes, the relaxing Zen Garden. In this game of chaos and fighting the undead, it's a place of peace and tranquility where you listen to relaxing music, grow plants, and earn money, with there being 3 gardens total. normal, night, and aquatic, with each being for the related plants. Now, when you start growing a new plant, obtained by purchasing them from Dave or collecting them after a Zed drops one, you don't know what it'll be until it blooms, and after it blooms, you earn money by growing it with water and fertilizer, and when fully grown, it'll drop coins for you to collect. And when you have a full Zen Garden, said coins can really add up, in addition to being able to sell unwanted plants to Dave for a hefty price. But about said coins, you can buy a little helper, Stinky the Snail, to assist you in picking up money, and if you give him chocolate, a rare item dropped by zombies, it'll cause Stinky to move faster and stay awake for an hour collecting dough. A good money farming strategy is to make all your plants happy for the day, give Stinky some sweets, go do something else for an hour, come back and have a hefty paycheck waiting for you. And I must say, the Zen Garden music is very relaxing, and I almost seem to remember falling asleep while in the Zen Garden on my DS one time. Along with the Zen Garden is the Tree of Wisdom, which you buy as a sapling and feed it to make it grow, with an achievement for growing it to 100 feet. In addition to the Zen Garden, other modes include mini-games, survival mode, local multiplayer, and puzzles. The Xbox 360 version has a total of 20 mini-games, 13 of which I've unlocked at the time of my writing, although I unlocked all the DS mini-games, some of which are exclusive to that console. Not sure if I have a favorite minigame, but Be Gold and Whack-A-Zombie are some candidates, and you unlock new minigames by beating other minigames. Moving on to the survival mode. I think it's locked until you beat the main story, but don't quote me on that. It's about what it sounds like, a survival mode. Not a lot to it. You have a normal and a hard mode for each of the 5 levels, which you beat by surviving X amounts of waves, with a final endless survival mode for the pool level, which is easier on the DS than Xbox in my opinion. Okay, next up is local multiplayer. There's no online option, I think. You have 2 modes, Co-op Walnut Bowling, which holds an achievement for winning a game in co-op and is really fun, and there's also a very fun versus mode, where one player attacks the zombies and the other defends his plants. Now, the DS version only requires one player to own a cartridge for multiplayer mode, and I remember one of my friends in elementary school really wanted to play this game with me and proceeded to get upset when I beat him 6-0. Okay, the final puzzle mode. This mode consists of 20 levels total and 2 puzzle types. iZombie, where you play as zombies attacking cardboard plants. Dave said they asked if he'd help them practice invading houses, and he said yes and provide the cutouts. And you win iZombie by eating all of the brains behind the plants, and earn Sun to buy new zombies by eating sunflowers. The other puzzle mode is Vase Breaker, where you break vases without knowing the contents, be it plants or Zeds, and kind of just having to prepare for the worst while flying blind. And it's surprisingly fun, and both puzzles have an endless mode should your heart desire that. So, in a nutshell, this game has a boatload of content. While I don't know all the specifics, I read the initial PC release was a mere $2.99. $2.99? With a free mobile release soon behind it, with the digital Xbox price being only $5, although I couldn't find anything on physical release prices. But my point is, that's a lot of content for the price of a Little Caesars Hot and Ready. Well, the pre-massive inflation Hot and Ready's anyways. Man, I could really go for one of those nasty greasy pizzas about now. Anyways, back to Plants vs. Zombies. I should also mention that this game has an absolute banger soundtrack that has a special place in my heart, as does this entire game really. I remember sneaking my DS to school and playing this at recess or on the bus a few times, and just endless hours of Zed onslaught at home. Good times, yo. good times. And a final note, the DS version allows you to create your own custom zombie avatar. In conclusion, this absolutely legendary game earns a 10 out of 10 from me. Kinda sad that EA owns the IP now, but at least we got Garden Warfare, which is really fun in my opinion. Just don't get Battle for Neighborville on Steam, it literally won't launch. Whew, this is my longest review to date, and I am a little tired, but I hope somebody enjoyed my deep dive into this legendary cartoon graphic zombie tower defense game. While I can't suggest any similar games really, maybe check out Pet Zombies for the 3DS if you want a more cartoony, not serious zombie game. My review will be in the end card for that game if you want to check it out. And that is all from me for today, everyone. For those new to my channel, I mostly play, review, and discuss zombie and horror games, so feel free to check out some of my other content if that maybe sounds interesting. Always remember that Jesus loves you all very much. Hope everyone has a blessed day. Peace.